early Adam, version 1.0, was a sergeant in the U.S. Army.
What do you think is the main leadership quality that enabled you to become so successful in the PE world as a CEO?
My grandmother was a vaudeville entertainer.
Actually, I think some people actually launched their company from that exercise. The economy is going down. Inflation is happening.
True wealth does not come from being a W-2 employee working for someone else.
Generational wealth, start your own thing, and be as bold, determined, and persevere like Adam has. And that works. Well, welcome to the very first episode of Excellence Journeys. This podcast is about business and personal transformation journeys. So we can learn from the lessons and insights of my guests. And today I have the absolute pleasure to introduce our very first guest for Excellence Journeys. He is a proud U.S. Army veteran. I will start with that. An extremely successful CEO and the author of not one, not two, but 4 international best-selling books. So with that, I'll introduce Adam Coffey. Hello, Adam.
Well, Griselda, it's good to be here for your inaugural episode. I feel so privileged, and I guess I can say with all honesty, this will be the best podcast ever.
Awesome.
Since it's the first and only, I guess it's also going to be your worst. So hopefully I'll keep the bar high for all your future subsequent guests.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for being here. I know you're a busy guy traveling all around the world. I've been following you and I know you're everywhere. So thank you for being here. But just to get started, I was going to go through the impressive numbers myself, but I know you have a very elegant way of going through the numbers of the 58 companies, et cetera, et cetera. I'll let you do that intro.
Okay, sure. So for those meeting me for the first time, I think life is a set of experiences. They build upon each other. It's funny how it works when I look back at it now as a 60-year-old guy. But, early Adam, version 1.0, was a sergeant in the U.S. Army. Military taught young version of me something about discipline, teamwork, leadership. I was an engineer. Engineering made me a meticulous planner. I'm a pilot. Pilots don't take off unless we know where we're going, and then we deconstruct the trip. And so useful skill for later on life when I was building companies. I spent 10 years at General Electric during the Jack Welch era. I call it the Camelot era. Tech doesn't exist. GE's #1 on the Fortune 500 list. Jack's the world's most admired CEO. What a great time for, a young up-and-coming executive, Adam, to learn how to run, a business in the world's most admired company led by the most admired CEO. And so that was great. That prepared me for 21 years as a CEO, building 3 different national companies for 9 different private equity firms. Buy and build guy, I did 58 acquisitions, sold the companies multiple times. I have $2.4 billion in successful exits as a CEO, and started teaching kind of somewhere in there. And I've been a guest speaker, guest lecturer at a lot of big universities now, but been doing that for about 15 years. And it was kind of during that era where I learned, hey, I love teaching, love giving back, and 4 #1 best-selling books. And I just finally got bored one day, and I was like, I'm done being a CEO. I'm going to spend the rest of my career teaching entrepreneurs how to be successful, how to beat the odds, how to climb the pyramid, and how to do all the things that I learned how to do across a more than 30-year career between corporate, Fortune 500, and then as a CEO for, middle market. And it's been a lot of fun. I work more hours today than I ever did as a CEO. I'm doing calls at night, on weekends. It's starting to really piss my wife off at times. And so I have to be mindful of that. I really wasn't looking to work more. I didn't know more could be done, but I'm learning that it can. And it's because I've got clients all over the world.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm a proud student of the Chairman Group. So
well, there you go.
My water bottle. I am learning, applying, and what you teach us in the Empire Builder, solid. I'm buying my first accounting company. You know that. So yes. Thank you for all that you teach us, not only me, but a lot of my peers in the Chairman Group as well. But with that, I'll start with this question. Obviously, Adam, you don't get to accomplish all that you have done in your career in private equity without the secret sauce, without those, I'll call it the unique attributes. What do you think is the main leadership quality that enabled you to become so successful in the PE world as a CEO?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, because I think I know what that skill is in my case, but I'm going to go way back. My grandmother was a vaudeville entertainer during the 1920s, during Prohibition, singer, dancer in Chicago, in the speakeasies with Al Capone and,
Wow.
all of those people. And so, she was an entertainer. My dad was a corporate executive, sales and marketing, very polished. But
Okay.
again, kind of grandma's genes, seemed to find their way into him. And, me growing up, I'm a class clown. It's like, I don't know when to shut my mouth and, getting in trouble, but having fun, good-natured stuff. I was never a mean kid. And I'd say that somewhere along the way, it was the gift of gab and the ability to articulate a vision and inspire other people to want to work hard to achieve kind of a shared aspiration. And I think for me, that's probably was always my best skill. It was building teams, building cultures, getting people to dig in and work hard and achieve, and overachieve. And so it was never that I was the smartest guy on the planet, because I never was, from an academic or book smart perspective. And so for me, I think it was, I'm the chief entertainment officer. I'm the chief rah-rah guy. I got pretty good at strategy and, as an operator for sure, but that was not my skill. I think it was the gift of gab, that goes way back to grandma. I'm not sure who had it before her, but I can trace the roots right back to vaudeville and Prohibition and grandma as an entertainer.
Awesome. Did not know that story. I've known you for several years now. I did not know it.
This is probably my 200th podcast, and you're the first person that heard about Meemaw.
Absolutely. Go Meemaw. And that is what migrated me to you. You called attention in Anaheim several years ago. And I remember just being mesmerized. I'm like, wow, this guy not only knows his stuff, but he's a people person. Totally Adam the visionary. I totally agree with that. That's what I saw when I met you, Adam, on stage.
Well, thank you. So I think that for me, that was the secret to success. Not everybody has that, and everybody has different skills. And so we just have to kind of recognize what our skills are. Some of us are very analytical, but we're shy. Others are hams like me, and but yet I would tell you, if I did a personality test, I'm an introvert. I'm not a guy who is out there. You put me in a mixer with a bunch of people and I'm in the corner nursing my drink. I'm generally not an extrovert. I'm an introvert, but I know how to kind of command a stage if I'm on a stage.
Wow.
Well, but not who I am in my
thanks
DNA.
For sharing that. And we're going to have a little bit of a 5-minute run of a this or that game at the end. So we're going to get to know more about Adam in a few minutes. But
okay.
A few questions first. Now, obviously, you've had a great run, and I've greatly, enjoyed learning from your books. I've read all 4 of them, and about your success. But also, what I admire is how you genuinely give back to the community through time, money, charities. And I've learned that about you, and I followed you. So tell us a little bit about that, about your amazing career, but it's important for you to give back, it seems.
Well, not to get all religious, but I consider myself to be a guy, of faith, as well. And, born and raised a Roman Catholic in a big old Irish Catholic clan, filled with kids everywhere, and neighborhood where there were kids everywhere. And so, but I'm very mindful, of different passages in scripture, things like, hey, to those to whom much is given, much is required. And how hard it is for a rich person to pass through the eye of the needle, and easier to pass through the eye of a needle than to ever make the kingdom of heaven. And so from my perspective, giving back is a piece of that. It's like, I am blessed, And so I feel that I have an obligation. Someday I'll get called before my maker and I'll have to account for my life. And there'll be plenty of stuff that I did, that I shouldn't have done. And so I need to stack the deck with as much good stuff on the other side, if I want to get by, right? So
Yes.
I believe strongly that, if we're blessed, we need to give back, and we give back in different ways. And so I try to do both. I both donate time.
Yeah.
I donate time at my daughter's school. I'm the planning and zoning. I'm the chairman of the planning and zoning commission for my town. It's a volunteer position, so I work, call it as a part of the government here, and then also volunteer my time at school for my daughter. Want to be around there, so I do time and I do money. And my book royalties, 100% of my book royalties are donated to charity. And I use my book royalties, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars, to
Yes, I know.
kind of fuel my philanthropic work. And so, that's kind of rounds me out, and I as I get older and I try to spend more time focused on giving back and trying to help others succeed. And, and I do that, a lot of the charities that I focus on, homeless, so people less fortunate.
Okay.
And then also children's charities, so charities that are focused on children's health, trying to help kids. Kids are the innocent ones, right? And so the last, the lonely, and the lost for the homeless, and so that's kind of where I focus some of my efforts. Also do a lot for veterans causes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for all of that. I know I've learned that side of you over the years. And, I admire what you do and I look up to you and I'm like, wow. And I also notice the more you give, the busier you get, right? People, more stages, more universities. And you had told me before, I'm like, oh no, I just go to the universities and it's charity work, right? But the amount of people that you're impacting through that, right? Obviously through your books, they're all over the world now, literally. I have friends all over the place, in Australia and India and other places where they're also reading Empire Builder. And the other,
somebody sent me a picture of it the other day on the beach in Bali, and I'm like, oh man, my book is living large. I should be in a hut in Bali.
Absolutely. I send to some of my friends in India. I'm like, you have to read this. But anyway, so with all of that success in charity and all the great work that you do, there's also some challenges that you have to overcome, some type of adversity. We all have it. I know you've had some challenging moments. What are some of those challenges that you had to overcome?
Well, I think, if you say my entire educational journey was non-traditional, and so I went, right out of high school, I went in the service. I joined the service under the delayed entry program when I was in my summer before I started my senior year. Graduated high school at 17, right in the service. So I didn't start off by going to college and doing kind of the traditional education route. Okay. And so, as I went from, I climbed a corporate ladder literally from the bottom and worked my way up to the top. And so, I was always competing against, especially in the Fortune 500 world, against some very smart people, the Harvard MBAs of the world call it. And so I decided, look, I don't have the educational background or the silver spoon track record that some of these people I have to compete with as I'm climbing the corporate ladder. So I decided I will outwork them. I will out hustle them. I'll be up first, I'll be in bed last, and I'll sleep when I'm dead. And that's kind of always been my motto, to this day. Nice. So it's like, out hustle, outwork, keep your head down, reinvent yourself frequently. I remember at GE, so I was there for 10 years. The GE back in the Jack area, we had this thing, Code 1 performers, the A players.
Yep, I remember.
B players, C players, and boy, C players got let go.
X's and O's. I remember the X's and O's. Yeah.
Yep, it was a forced thing, and you know what? You can be on top once and get there through any number of factors, but it's hard to stay on top in a place like GE. And so every year I was thinking, how can I reinvent myself? how can I eclipse success I had, year prior? How am I going to keep, adding value to the company, and and allow myself to stay kind of on top of that. And I kind of had that mentality that I have to earn it. I have to earn it every year.
Right.
And you can't rely on your reputation or last year. Especially one of the things I hated about the Fortune 500 world was the fact that if your boss was climbing the corporate ladder too, about every 18 months, you had a new boss.
Yes.
And you were taking new roles about every 18 months. And it's like, God, you're constantly having to prove your value to somebody new who doesn't know you.
Yep.
And so that, was always a challenge. And so I would also say then, another just example is recognizing in life when you're at a crossroads and trying to answer those questions about, do I take the path to the left? Do I take the path to the right? I was a really good soldier. I was Soldier of the Year in 1984, a long time ago. Ronald Reagan's, my commander in chief. That's 1,000 years ago.
Wow.
I had a really good military career going.
Yes.
Stay in the military or get out. That was kind of a crossroads, and then in my engineering career, I was a really good engineer, but I was kind of topped out young, I'm making six figures as a young guy back in the 80s. And I'm like, impressive. Okay, I'm kind of at the ceiling. And if I want to do more, I've got to move over and get into management. And boy, that's a scary place when you're a really good engineer. And so, that's a crossroads. And so it's kind of being able to look back and recognize crossroads and trying to understand left-right decisions. Because I think for all of us in our careers, there's probably a half a dozen different pivot points where we had to make big life-changing decisions.
Yep. And
which path do we take, and being able to recognize those and without regrets. And I remember I had this crossroad at GE. And so this is another story I don't think I've shared with anybody. So you're getting good stuff out of me.
Awesome.
So
sure.
Engineer, I'm plotting my departure from GE, and I have a business plan written. And it's still in my garage to this day. I could walk right out, know right where it's at.
Cool.
And I was probably within a handful of days of leaving the Fortune 500 world to start my first company. And I got called to the principal's office, my new general manager, at the time is like, Adam, what the hell are you doing as an engineer? You should be in management. I had done some things that had gotten some national attention back in the day.
Nice.
And so he was like all about taking me and putting me on a different trajectory. And I'm sitting there with this business plan in my hand, literally days from leaving.
Ooh.
And I'm like, do I go be a manager? Do I stay? Do I go start this company? And it's like, and I keep that business plan literally in a box right in my garage. Can walk right to it, because once in a while I'll pull it out and say, here's the road I didn't take. And that was 2.5 billion in exits ago and 4 #1 best-selling books ago. And I'm sure I would have been successful had I gone that way. But it would have been a different level or different kind of success. And so, I'd say recognizing these pivot points is not so much about your challenges or your weaknesses. It's about how do you overcome them, and you overcome them, and then I do from success. But at the same time, it's like, I think you got to recognize your strengths, your weaknesses, and know how to get around them.
Yeah. And we all have them, right? We all have those pivot points and mistakes. You've helped me with a couple myself. I remember being over at your place at the clubhouse saying, hey, this is what I have, Adam. What do you think? And you let me know what, so it's good to reach out, get some advice, get some input, and then make those wise decisions as you
and
navigate.
That's risky, right? Because I feel a sense of responsibility, so all the people that I work with, I work with 71 founders right now. And when I give them advice, it's like sometimes they're making left, right choices, and, I'm trying to help them and give them the best wisdom that I can. But ultimately success doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you. And
absolutely.
You're the one who's got to do the work to make success happen. So.
Oh, absolutely. We come to you for the wisdom and experience, and you always let us know, right? It's really my decision. And you told me that, and I made the call. But thank you for that. And I know that's how you work with all the others, because we talk about that and they love the advice that they receive from you as well. So now, one of those pivot points is what took you from the Fortune 500 into private equity.
Yeah.
So now about the PE world, right? Now 4.4 trillion in assets under management, I think.
I just read a McKinsey article yesterday, a couple days ago, said 7 trillion.
No way. Oh my goodness. So 7 trillion. Now, what do you think will be the impact the PE world will have on the economy in the near future?
So the PE world has already had a tremendous impact in the world. Just people may not recognize it. I tell people, especially like in a seminar setting, it's like you can't get through a 24-hour day without encountering a logo that's owned by private equity. You can't even go camping by yourself like in Denali National Park, because half your camping gear would be owned by a private equity-backed, company. And so it's like they literally have, are buying more than 50% of all companies, bought and sold on the planet involve private equity, in one way or another. And it's because of all of those, that the trillions of dollars in assets under management that have been flowing in over the last several decades that there is a market for an entrepreneur. Even if you don't sell to private equity, the reason you can sell your company for a lofty valuation is because a market has been created by this capital that makes nothing. It needs to buy something in order to generate its returns for its investors. And so it has really permeated the world, the landscape. And even to this day, the reason I wrote the second edition of the Private Equity Playbook was because I can still start a seminar with a basic 10-question quiz and have 90% of the people in the room fail it.
And, I
remember. Multiple choice, as you remember, it's like, so I've literally only had 2 people in years that I've been doing this get a perfect score, 10 out of 10. And they were both ladies, so that may say something about us guys. But one of them told me, hey, look, I read your book coming in last night on the plane. I have an eidetic memory. It's like I was able to do that. Someone else had been in the room taking that test multiple times over the last 3 or 4 years, and so they also were very well prepared for that. But the people still fail the basic test, which tells me my work's not done. People still don't understand the world of private equity, and for some reason I've made it my mission to try to educate people on how it all works, because I think it's just so important to an entrepreneur's success that you need to understand how this thing works that's called private equity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've learned a ton myself. And I remember that neat exercise that we did in one of your workshops where you had us build our own company, plan it out. What's the business plan? How much revenue are you bringing in? And, what's your marketing plan? That was pretty neat. Actually, I think some people actually launched their company from that exercise. Remember?
Yes, I remember that. Some people said, I like my idea so much. And so the exercise for the listeners out there, I said, we're in this room and all of your wealth has just been stripped. You have no money. You have to start a business. The people sitting at your table, those are your new partners. What kind of business are we going to start? Why? How are we going to fund it? How are we going to do what we do? And then I started throwing, different economic circumstances at you to see how your business would have weathered, in a recession or during a war or whatever. It was a lot of fun, but yes, I recall there were some businesses that came and got launched out of that little workshop.
Actually, my coaching and consulting came from ideas in that session. So I thank you for that. But now, related, so part of that exercise, you were telling us, right? We're in a war, economy is going down, inflation is happening. You were giving us I'm like, oh my goodness, the world is going to end. But it was truthful, right? There's a lot of still challenges going on. So that leads
there was nothing that hasn't happened. I mean, there's wars in the Middle East and wars in Europe, and we had the pandemic and the lockdown. It's like, hey, this stuff really happens.
Yes. And what are we going to do, right? Are we going to be prepared as CEOs, you being our CEO coach? Can we really survive this? Can our businesses survive? So on that note, Adam, anything that concerns you about the path ahead? Let's start with America first. And then
So
we'll go to the world.
you know what? Just like I want to help people, I love my country. I'm a patriot. What can I tell you?
I know.
I'm a vet. I'm a lifetime member of the NRA. I'm a patriot. That's what I am.
Yes.
So do I worry about the future of our country? Yes. I tell people, boy, I hate just the visceral hatred, that is now the left and the right, and how polarized we've become to where you can't be in a room with people that think differently than you, and the way that the media has just lost all bias, or lost all of its just, it used to be you could trust the American media to be an arbiter of just the news. Now everything has to pick a side. They have a narrative. The news lies to us every day. Someone famous, I don't remember if it was Ronald Reagan or somebody said, the key to democracy is a free press, and when the press becomes biased, that's when you lose the true democratic principles. So I'm a dad, I have kids, I have grandkids, just like of course I worry about the future of our country. I would take any day of the week, give me Ronald Reagan with Tip O'Neill, or give me Bill Clinton with Newt Gingrich. Take me back to that time in America when the left and right really weren't that far apart and they could still talk and be in the same room. I'd like to get back there. So I do worry about that. I worry about our national debt. At some point you just can't keep printing money forever, although we seem to be getting away with it. But the national debt is it's going to have a huge impact on the economy somewhere down the road. Can't keep doing what we're doing. And so I worry about that. I worry about just in general. Seems like the world's gotten a lot more volatile. It's not just a U.S. thing. There's a lot of unrest in France and Great Britain, and just the world. Wars, Middle East. Good Lord. If you'd have dialed tape back to the 1970s and said there's a war in the Middle East, you'd have a depression in the stock market. This is nuts. We're at like all-time highs on the Dow, but yet there's a war in the Middle East. So there's a lot of weirdness going on. And so generally when I'm working with people and I'm thinking about building businesses, I worry about the risk that people are taking. And so I wrote an article for Forbes, that when's the right time to sell my business. And I talked about the rule of 130. I'm 60 years old. So write down the number 60. Your age is a 2-digit number. What percent of your net worth is tied up in this illiquid thing known as your company? And add those two-digit numbers together. If it's more than 130, it's time to think about selling, getting some asset diversification. You don't have to leave. You could become a minority, shareholder in the company you formerly founded and work with a partner, but getting some wealth out of the business to diversify, your net worth, I think is important in today's volatile world. So I build, and you can swing for the fences. I just, I want to stop loss. Every time my company's getting bigger, I want to take some chips off the table and throw them, like a squirrel throwing nuts in the tree for winter. It's like the little squirrels are all busy out here digging up my yard and hiding these big pecans. I've got this like 200-foot pecan tree in my backyard.
Oh, wow.
It's probably been there for, I don't know, 200-300 years, and it's like 9 feet around, and the pecans it drops are massive.
Nice.
And so the squirrels of the neighborhood are working hard out there because fall finally came.
Yep, absolutely. But I teach the rule of 130 to people that I work with, my in-laws, for example. I'm like, hey guys, you've invested so much time into this awesome business. What next, right? The rule of 130 kicked in, and they believed it, and so they're on it. So thank you for all of those lessons. Now, as a true patriot who served his country with pride and authenticity, what words of wisdom would you give your younger self, Adam?
So this is a good question. It's one I get often. I've been successful. I wouldn't second guess anything because I like where I'm at, and so how I got here for mistakes made, is okay. But hypothetically, if I think about it, I tell people the answer to that question is just simply, I wish I would have left the corporate world sooner. Rather than at age 57, call it. So CEO building companies with institutional shareholders or private equity. true wealth, people listening, does not come from being a W-2 employee working for somebody
Let's
else.
repeat that one again.
Yes, yeah. True wealth does not come from being a W-2 employee working for someone else. I became wealthy, but I beat the odds, and I invested and rolled over, and I did the things that I did. But geez, just starting a business or buying a business from a retiring baby boomer, such a great time in history right now with so many people retiring and needing to find a home for their company. It's a great time to buy a business. And you know what? You have risk everywhere in life.
Yep, absolutely.
There's risk that your Fortune 500 company is going to lay you off or is going to restructure you right out of existence. And yes, there's risk if you are a business owner that something bad could happen. But I think you have better control of your destiny when, and the better potential for upside, when you own your own business. And so I'd say the younger me, it's not that I regret not taking the path I took, and having executed on that business plan out in the garage, but rather just having learned what I learned in the Fortune 500 world and then leaving early, maybe 10 years early or something like that. So I had more runway. I think I'm invested in 18 different companies right now.
Wow.
Well, actually, I'm doing 18 buy-in builds right now. I got 52 K1s this year, and I'm like, God bless Deloitte tax, because I could have never done it. But it's like, there is so many opportunities out there. And unfortunately at my age, it's like, I just don't have a 30, 40 year runway to explore them all, but so if I'd have had a little more time to explore all of these other options, it would, that's probably what I would have done different.
Yeah. So for all of us listening out there, right, I'm 52 myself. So definitely have an awesome coach in Adam to guide me through what decisions I'm making, but completely agree, right? Generational wealth, start your own thing, and be as bold, determined, and persevere like Adam has. And that works. And obviously you get to help others, many others, right? So you're making a huge impact, not only here in this country, but around the world, right? You and I know our friends from other places that are reading your books, applying, part of the chairman group, and it works. So we thank you for that. Now on that note, so advice. You're a strong supporter for women. I think you informed us, and I don't know if the numbers are the same, but 52% women in your chairman group. So what advice would you have for young up-and-coming minds, like your young, beautiful Rose, and my own teenage daughter, right, that will be listening to this podcast, but what will prepare them for the economic challenges of this world now and into the next decade?
Yeah, so I think my advice doesn't matter whether you're a female or a male. It's the same. You're not going to become wealthy being a W-2 employee working for someone else. Learn how to run a business, start a business, grow a business, learn how to be independent. I think about Rose and I think, boy, I don't want her dependent on any person, be a man, husband, whatever. It's like, she may choose to get married, to have kids, do all that great stuff, but I want her to be able to take care of herself and to have choices in life that not everybody has or gets to make. And so it's learn how to be self-sufficient and potentially focus on that first before we worry about, puppy love and, getting married too young and quick divorce. I think, the last statistic I saw is it's the typical average divorce rate, in most of the world, it's over 50%.
It's more than half now. It's not crazy.
Yeah. And so if the odds are that bad, why is it that way? And I think for a lot of people, traditional like me, it's like you got married young, it's like, and you didn't know who you were, let alone who your partner was. You're still maturing, they're still maturing. And I think that leads to a lot of divorces, and so I think learning how to be independent, learning how to be self-sufficient and, allowing yourself to mature and then decide, what is that family unit going to look like? But for me, and last time I did check, it's over 50% of the chairman group are women-owned businesses. And for me, it's like, boy, I don't care what sex you are, being a good business person, having a killer instinct, learning how to grow and be successful, that's universal. It doesn't matter what sex you are.
Yep, agreed. Any diverse candidate. Now, on that note, and you mentioned a little bit about obviously you're a businessman, highly successful, you're a patriot, also a father. Now, many of us struggle with this, and I know in brief conversations, there's been some chats that you and I have had, but during your worldly travels, as you created your empire that you're still building, right? Obviously, it's a large empire now, but it's still growing. Any guilt that you had in not always being there when you wanted to, like being on a plane, being on the road, being around the other side of the world?
That's another important life lesson that we have to learn. Climbing the ladder of success requires you to be focused.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there's times where your priorities are pulled into different direction. And so, in my dedication to my first book, I apologize to my elder children for being a crappy dad,
Yes.
and for being too focused on career. And it's like, there are times where we do have to put, call it career first, because the demands, of it, are just such that sometimes we have to be out of town and we have to miss a function or do something. But,
right.
But I think, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, we're gone,
Yep.
and it won't matter what business cards, we had, what our titles were, how much money was in the bank. The only reason we'll have ever existed is our children. And so being present, and being there, as a parent is, to me, family's the most important thing. Sometimes it has to take second spot.
Yeah.
I'll see you in Anaheim, we'll be on stage, hey, I got to go out of town, but I really try to focus on making an effort, to be there and to kind of find the balance now, later in life, that I didn't have earlier. And the Fortune 500 world back then probably just didn't really allow or afford me with that opportunity.
Right.
So very mindful of that. Family first. Career really doesn't matter.
Right. Absolutely. And I've learned from you, right? I mean, just all along, I am blessed, and I think similarities in that I have a 22-year-old daughter, right? And for her, probably 18 of those 22 years, I was on the road Monday through Friday, right? I was a weekend mom. Now, we have that guilt sometimes, but we've talked about this, and you've mentioned it in some of our workshops. It's they're watching what you do and they're learning, right?
Sure.
So now my Brianna at 22 is solid, business lady, starting her own thing and just taking off. He goes, Mom, don't worry that you went there. He goes, you were there, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I learned from you, right?
Yep.
And we must have done something right, because that was her calling me, right? So every day she'll still call in and say, hey, Mom, how you doing? And how's it going? Now I have the teenagers, so obviously I have to make sure that as I build my business, right, I am more present than I was for my Brianna, who was a little older.
Well, and the other thing for me too was, climbing the corporate ladder is like you're moving all the time. And so I drag my kids all over the place. But my elder kids, because of that, are very adaptable to new circumstances, new environments. I contrast that with my brother, who's a great guy, business owner and dad. He's lived in the same house for 20 years. It's been, I don't think he's ever lived more than 25, 30 miles from where we grew up as kids.
Wow. Yeah.
I've been all over the world, and it's, there's no right or wrong, but it's, man, I drag my kids all over the place in the name of title, money, climbing the corporate ladder. And, the pro there is they've become much more adaptable to new circumstances. The con, they probably didn't have that stability. And it's like, I asked my elder son, it's like, where do you call home? And that's, he has to think about that for a minute, because he had a lot of different places that he lived.
Someone asked one time, the same question, right? We're in a business meeting somewhere in another country. Goes, I don't really know what home is. And someone's like, you know what, Griselda? Home is where I sit my ass that evening, because who knows, right? We're in a different part of the world. Usually. But yeah, so silver lining in that is, you're right, they get to be social butterflies and adaptable, right? They're extremely flexible. So it's not always bad. They're learning from watching you in action. All right, so we're going to go into a little bit of fun. Not that the questions are not fun. We've learned a lot, so thank you, Adam. But a little bit of this or that game. Okay, so rapid fire questions. Don't think, just answer quickly. Don't think too much, and just go into the immediate pick of this or that. Okay, and I'm going to give you a trick question at the very end, but it's about 10 of them. You ready?
Yep.
All right. So, and I'm going to make note here, because this is how we're getting to know Adam on a different level. Beach or mountains, Adam?
Beach.
Beach. Cash or credit?
Cash.
Look at that. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Early bird. I know that, man. I've seen some of those emails come through. Beer or cocktails?
Cocktail.
Cocktail man. Read a book or listen to a podcast?
Listen to a book.
Ah, very cool. Okay,
I do
got
books
it.
on tape when I walk.
There you go. All right, ready for this one? It's a fun one. Cowboy boots or dancing shoes?
Cowboy boots.
Gotcha. Guns or roses?
Guns.
Quality or speed?
Ooh, quality.
All right.
Younger, speed. Older, Adam, quality. I've learned how to be
there
patient.
you go. As you age, more about quality. Perfect. All right, ready? Good one. Pizza or tacos?
Oh, I'm gonna go with pizza,
Pizza.
but I
Got
love
it.
tacos too.
I know. It's a hard one. All right, last question. Now, if you could choose any superpower, zooming in on me, my camera is AI enabled, so I'm going to say back. What would that be? So what would be your superpower, Adam?
To be clairvoyant, to see the future, so that I could invest appropriately today.
There you go. I had never thought of that one, but yes, so visibility into the future. And you can tell us that you would really be able to get a huge gathering on the German group with that
Or
superpower.
time travel, be able to go back, knowing what I know today, and always focused on investing, knowing
Yeah.
the trends, give me the pet rock idea in 1972 or whenever that was,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. So just to summarize, right? You're all about, being on the beach, use your cash, definitely an early bird. How early is early, Adam?
I'm up at 4 a.m. every day.
4 a.m. every day. Here I
3:30
was-
today.
Oh my goodness. Here I am thinking I'm solid at 5:30, 5:45 in the morning. I got to change my routine, coach. All right. So you want cocktails, listen to a book as you do your walks, obviously.
Yeah, people
also-
always ask me, what business books do you listen to? I'm like, I really don't listen to business books. I listen to fiction. I
Oh.
love, and lately, all my favorite books of my life, I've been re-listening to them, and I love historical fiction. So these really long books by guys like John Jakes, and Herman Wouk, and it's like just these long, 1,600 page, it's like 65 hours. I'll be walking around my neighborhood for a month trying to get
Oh
this.
my goodness.
And if I
did
want to
not
know what's
that.
going on in my book, I got to get back out and walk.
Wow.
I
Interesting.
recently did every book Stephen King wrote in the chronological order that he wrote them. I was a big Stephen
Really?
King fan when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so always have loved, literature and fiction, and my first love secretly was
Yeah.
I wanted to be a writer. As
Oh.
a kid, wanted to be a writer.
And you became a very successful writer.
But business books,
Business
it's like I wanted to be a writer of fiction. That was
There you
my
go.
first love. Yeah.
Hey, you are young, Adam. Time is out there.
Yeah.
Time is
Next
your
life.
friend.
Next life, I'll do that.
Yeah. Anyway, so cowboy boots. I know you're Texan, so obviously cowboy boots, guns, quality, and enjoying a little bit of pizza with the family with her clairvoyance.
But I'm married to a Latina, and so I got to tell you, it's like half my fat belly is from wonderful Hispanic food, and I go to, it's like we I don't know how many days a week, but Tex-Mex or Mexican, it's like we are always, that's my go-to.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're a salsa dancer, right? Latin dancer?
Not a
Latin
good
beats?
one.
But
My wife, her dad, that's like, I'm a white boy. Yeah.
there you go. You got to keep up with her, though. You got to
That's
keep up
it.
with her. So you got to learn some moves. So write a book, fiction book, and keep up with your wife. So any last words, Adam? Anything else that you want to share? Thank you so much, by the way. Great insights. A lot of content here for us to apply. I've been applying a lot of that already. So has Greg, and we're on to buying our first company with your guidance. Completely appreciate that. It is fun too, by the way. I will say that. You've taught us so much. And with the workshops, it just seems like work. You start doing it, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, hey, making money's fun. It's
Yeah.
like, and there's always going to be rough days and rough patches, but you're a highly educated lady who was at the top of her game in the Fortune 500 world. And you're kind of going back and having fun now. trying something new, which is great. So, hey, parting shot, just, hey, everybody out there, don't be afraid to try. You can be a dreamer in life or a doer. And I think, dreams lead to regrets. Get out there and try. You get knocked down, you get back up. You keep on trucking. It's like, life has risks no matter where you're at. So you may as well not leave any cards unplayed on the table, because we don't know when our time is going to come. And so for me, I can honestly say, if my day ever comes, prop me up in the corner, give me an Irish wake, everybody drink, because I had a great run and I played every hand and every card I was dealt. So, go out there and do. Don't just dream.
Be a doer. Absolutely. So for the very first episode of Excellence Journeys, we all enjoyed it. I know I greatly enjoyed it. We're all going to take so much of it. And this is how we're going to kick off every single podcast of Excellence Journeys, with some great insights, some amazing leaders that we can all learn from, and then obviously go and apply. So thank you so much for your great insights, Adam, and for a fun conversation. We got to know you at a different level. But
yes, you did. So good luck, everybody out there.
Yep. Thank you. We'll see you in Anaheim.
Bye.
Bye.